So remember, we're not reading off there first tackle, it's the ad-lib.
Yeah, ad-lib and full open.
Yeah. Ready. Tackle. The ad-lib.
Oh. World Cup full of upsets.
Yeah, we've had an Argentina shocker. You know, Saudi Arabians declared a public holiday. It was that good of a victory. And now Japan, what was already a public holiday, beat Germany yesterday there.
Yeah, and Belgium looked vulnerable against the Canadians, but then Spain came through for the most fancy nations.
Welcome to the World Cup Que Sera Qatar podcast, a podcast produced and presented by sports journalism students live from our television studios in Preston. I'm Elliot Burrow.
And I'm Taku, and in this episode we'll be reviewing all the actions from the games yesterday and all the major talking points. We'll also be looking ahead to the games that are coming up later today. For those of you that are currently joining us live on YouTube, Switzerland are playing Cameroon right now as we speak, and that score is currently 0-0.
Yeah, now this podcast, Taku, it wouldn't be any fun if it was just me and you talking, sat here talking and going through all the action, would it?
Nah, certainly not, Elliot. That's why we're joined by our pundits from UCLan Sports Journalism course, and we're also joined by UCLan Sports Journalism graduate who now works at TalkSport, Elsa Cohen.
Yes, and alongside her we have...
Hi, I'm Matt Salmons. You're probably getting sick of my voice. It's the third time I've been on this week. I'm a second year sports journalism student and I'm a Northampton Town fan.
I'm Ollie Walton. I'm a third year sports journalism student and I'm a Stoke City fan.
Hi, I'm Stuart McCracken. I'm a second year sports journalism student and you can tell from the accent I'm from Northern Ireland and an Arsenal fan.
I'm Sam Seddon-Davis. I'm a second year sports student and I'm a Wigan Athletic fan.
Yeah, and we'll be back to you lot in a few minutes, but first of all, we're going to chat to our guest, Elsa. Elsa, you had a few traffic problems this morning with the trains and stuff like that. You're here now, which is great to see. Just how does it feel to be back here at UCLan?
It's great to be back. I always enjoy coming back here, as much as Steve and Jerry are probably thinking, I thought we got rid of her, but yeah, it's nice to come back and see all you guys who are also interested and enthusiastic about sports journalism.
Yeah, that's great. So we're going to start off with a debate here, so feel free guys to jump in whenever you want to join in with this, but first of all, Elsa, who's excited you the most in the World Cup so far? Because we've had Spain's obviously 7-0 win yesterday, England's win. Just who sort of stood out to you the most?
Well, I was completely taken aback at Saudi Arabia's massive win the other day. I was covering that at work. It's certainly not the result we thought we were going to get. We were all sort of thinking, Argentina will probably have this one, like no problem, Lionel Messi, But yeah, we were all very taken aback. And the match report had to be very quickly redone. But yeah, Saudi Arabia honestly blew us all away a little bit there. And yeah, England, obviously, I was, without sounding like a rubbish England fan, I wasn't sure how we were going to do either. It's just, you either think, we're going to do really well, or I've found a bit of negativity across social media, like, is Gareth Southgate, should he still be there, should we still have him? But the likes of Jude Bellingham and Bukayo Saka absolutely stunned us all the other day. But yeah, I think England and Saudi Arabia have done really well.
Yeah. Matt, you watched the Saudi Arabia game because you talked about on the podcast yesterday there. You were sat in the studios and Argentina went 1-0 up and you sort of went, Argentina are just going to win this now. But you like that Saudi Arabia performance as well. You thought they came back and...
Yeah, it was amazing. I mean, I love an underdog story as kind of a lower league fan with the FA Cup and all that kind of stuff. So to see that kind of happen in the World Cup was unbelievable. And, Saudi Arabia celebrated every clearance, like it was a goal and stuff like that, which were amazing. I think the only nation that wasn't mentioned was France. Obviously, we saw Spain yesterday, who are against a pretty poor Costa Rica side, so I don't think we've seen their full strength yet. But France, I think they kind of breezed past Australia after obviously going 1-0 down. We nearly saw an upset there, but I think France are going to be good in this tournament, and they showed that on the other day against Australia.
Yeah. Has anyone else had any standouts, do you reckon, so far? I know you're a big one on Germany, Stuart, but we won't talk about that too much.
What did you say yesterday, Stuart? What did you say yesterday? Yeah. Can you just remind us?
They can still get through the group. They've got a massive game on Sunday, but they can still get through the group. I think Spain actually did very well yesterday. The possession stats were quite ridiculous. 82% possession, over 1,000 passes. So they always had that question mark, who's going to score the goals for them? But Ferran Torres scored a hat-trick. Actually, you can't ask for much more. So if they can keep that scoring form, I don't see why they can't go far in the tournament.
I just want to give a little thing to Canada as well. I thought they were brilliant against Belgium yesterday. Not very well fancied, especially against a side like Belgium with all their kind of big players. And I thought they probably should have took something from the game so they can really take that into their next few games and try and go for it and get out the group.
I've got to say England, obviously. Well, the winners of like the continental trophies, they were the only ones that actually won their opening match. So I think England have done well. I think they'll carry that.
Yeah, it's a good chance in there. Funny enough, you mentioned Canada there, Ollie. We had someone on the podcast yesterday who did really like Canada. In fact, I think like's a very strong word
Good old
for it.
Ryan.
I mean, love, I would say, was Ryan's opinion on it. But anyways, moving on. We obviously had, away from the football yesterday, we had the protests as well by Germany with the armband and stuff, which the Germany players cover their mouth during the team photograph because they wanted to sort of signify that FIFA were almost silent to them. Elsa, what did you make of that? Do you reckon was it a statement that needed to be made, do you reckon?
I think it certainly was. I think quite a few teams are maybe, after the whole controversy around the One Love armband and, Alex Scott taking it upon herself to wear it the other day, I think quite a lot of the teams are maybe trying to think of ways they can get their point across without, towing the line and, angering people they don't need to anger. Because, I do understand players don't want to start a game with a yellow card, before they've even, stepped onto the pitch. It is a bit ridiculous, really. So when Germany put their hands over the mouths yesterday, I just thought, they're well in the right to do it and they've sent the right message across. I think hopefully other teams might maybe get, a bit of inspiration, maybe even a little bit of courage to do something themselves after seeing Germany do that.
Yeah.
I think it could be a bit like what we saw with Taking the Knee when Aston Villa did that against Sheffield United back when the Premier League restarted. I think we wouldn't be surprised to see other teams doing that themselves as well.
Yeah. I think the interesting point is the booking point. I think, it's like booking players and stuff like that for it. That's where it gets interesting. I think that's where it's worth it's doing. But moving on then, we had some positive news this morning on Harry Kane. He looks like he's going to be fit to play tomorrow. Just how important news is that to England, especially sort of going into that match tomorrow against the USA?
Oh, it's massive news. I think the nation did a massive sigh of relief when we discovered it's not as bad as what we thought. Obviously, when he went down, and I think he initially hurt his ankle and then carried on playing for like 27 minutes on it and then came off the pitch, which, maybe wasn't the best idea. But, it's Harry Kane, it's England. Of course, he wants to stay on the pitch. But, it's massive news and it's a massive relief for all England fans. And I did think it was quite amusing yesterday. We got it confirmed that it wasn't as bad as what we thought it was from Conor Cody and Jordan Pickford. Maybe not the team doctors, but they did say he was training on the grass, which is a good sign.
Yeah.
I think well when you touch on Kane there as well, when you said like he stayed on, I don't know why they kept him on really. Like when you've got a suitable backup in Callum Wilson as well, and England had already won the game like at half time, hadn't they really? So I think they've really got to keep good care of Kane if they want to go far in this competition.
Especially
definitely.
with the backup only being Callum Wilson and probably Marcus Rashford, the striker options, you're very limited if you are
against a tiring Iran.
3-0 up already.
I think the only thing for Kane is you want to get him scoring goals, don't you? He's got I said this yesterday, he's got golden boot potential at this tournament. Yeah. So that was the only reason that I would have kept him on, just to try and get him that first goal, because like I said, once he gets one,
he's the kind of player where he probably doesn't want to come off the pitch as well, isn't he?
Exactly, yeah. Especially when you're 6-2 up and there's chances of even more goals.
I don't think you can completely write off Marcus Rashford either. He had 3 touches and scored in 29 seconds. And has Harry Kane ever done that? I'm not sure.
It'd be
but
interesting, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
But yeah, you touched on obviously Rashford and Wilson there. Have we got enough strength if he does get injured? Have we got that quality there? Because I think Rashford offers something and Wilson does, but does it offer the same as what Harry Kane does? Do you reckon?
Callum Wilson's nowhere near the player that Harry Kane is. Sorry, Newcastle fan. I don't know, it's a difficult one. I think Callum Wilson with Rashford up top, that's a very pacey front two, and Wilson's got a lot of strength about him as well, so it could work. I'm not sure Wilson up front on his own works the way Kane would work. Kane works, the way he holds up the ball, gets people running off him, and then they get the ball in the box, and he usually scores tap-ins or headers, doesn't he? So, but that's nothing against him. You've got to be there to score them as well. So I think Wilson's a very different type of striker to Harry Kane, but I could see it working.
I think you have to, all due respect to Iran, you have to remember it's Iran, it's not Spain, France, Germany, so I think you have to be realistic with it, and Kane against the bigger teams will always be the superior player.
That could be something we can look back at. Should he have picked maybe an Ivan Toney, a different type of striker, so if Kane does get injured, you're not replacing him with a different style of striker and change your whole system of play.
Yeah, definitely. Taka, are you happy that Kane's now looking like he's available tomorrow?
I think Kane's he's our captain, he's our best player arguably, so you have to have him on the pitch, so I'm happy that he's fit.
Yeah, no, good. So it's time to move into a review now of yesterday's games. So before we can start to sort of look forward at what's coming up today and what's coming up tomorrow, we we need to have a look back at some of those games that took place yesterday.
Yep. So first of all, we'll come to the most shocking thing that happened yesterday, which was obviously Japan's big win over Germany. We'll come to you first, Elsa. What did you make of that game?
I thought it was another massive World Cup shock, and I don't think anyone was prepared for it either. I think everyone just thought, oh, Germany will just breeze through this, as we thought Argentina would breeze past Saudi Arabia. But I think Germany just thought it was going to be a really easy game, and I think once they scored their first goal, I think they just took the foot off the ignition a little bit. They weren't maybe going in as hard as what they should have, and that's sort of where Japan managed to get it back and score them 2 goals and send their fans into an absolutely massive frenzy. And then the second goal was absolutely unreal as well. I won't try and pronounce the guy who scored its name because I won't do myself any favours, but it was brilliant. And yeah, it was another really, really exciting game, and it is just making me think, are we going to have some of the big names like Germany, France and Spain? Obviously we know how some of the outcomes might be, but are we going to see a few teams getting through who maybe wouldn't think would get through into the last 16?
Yeah, well, Stuart, you had Germany as your favourite, so what do you have to say about the game?
Yeah, wasn't a great start to my podcast career, that prediction, but you got to take your hats off to them, to be fair. And it's actually quite funny how the Germany squad got taken down by 2 Bundesliga players in Asano and Ritsu Duan. And you got to ask questions now. They weren't clinical enough yesterday. They created loads of chances first half, but just didn't take them. They don't have that striker like they used to have, Miroslav Klose, Mario Gomez, just to finish those chances. They tried to have Kai Havertz in a false 9, which we've seen in his Chelsea career. He's not a proven goal scorer. So that begs the question again, do they go for that veteran in Nikos Füllkrug or the youngster Yusuf Moukoko up front? If they do change it, well, massive game on Sunday against Spain. If they lose that, they're basically out of the tournament. So yeah, hopefully they can do the business on Sunday, don't look as much as a fool.
Can you see them winning that game? Or?
I think they can still win that game, yeah. I think they'll be right up for it again. Spain obviously come in with the confidence, which will be a huge factor, but they still got the players to do it if they just get themselves together, because they can dominate any football match with the players they have in midfield especially.
I think with the smaller nations as well, a lot of people have been talking about how this World Cup is in the middle of the season, the players are kind of at peak fitness. It's not like we've just had a full season, and maybe the smaller nations players might tire that little bit more than kind of the bigger nations. So I don't know what anyone else thinks, but yeah, I think that the smaller nations are going to have, I think their players are going to be fitter, and they're kind of at peak fitness at this point, which is probably why we've seen a few more upsets. And the other thing I wanted to open up on is what was the better upset, Saudi Arabia or Japan?
It's got to be Saudi Arabia for me. I think when you beat a team with Lionel Messi in it, and they went one behind as well. I know Japan did as well, but I think Germany. I don't think Germany are the force they've been in recent years, and I think Japan are a really good team themselves. So it was a shock, obviously, but I think Saudi Arabia, when you look at their squad compared to Argentina's, it was a massive shock, and probably the bigger one for me. Yeah.
You've got to tip your hat as well to the manager of Japan, kdhmeii38bswqz. His substitutions changed the game. Tomiyasu, and then the 2 substitutes, Asano and Duan, scoring goals. So you got to tip the hat to him as well. And their fans, they loved how after every game they always clean up whatever they've left in the stadium, which is just a great.
And the dressing room as well, yeah. So they're always classy, aren't they, Japan fans?
Fans, yeah.
I think there were some shots of them as well after the opening ceremony. And the Qatar game, there were some Japanese fans there as well that were cleaning up. I mean, their team aren't even playing, so yeah, always good to see classy football fans and their team doing well for them as well.
Right, well, staying with that group, we saw that group. Yeah, that group. Spain had a big performance. So, what do you guys think about Spain?
Well, 7-0, biggest ever World Cup victory for the Spanish. You can't ask for much more, can you? And their midfield duo, Pedri and Gavi, that's ridiculous. For the next decade, they'll be dominating that midfield for them. And you got to consider, though, Costa Rica, they were pretty atrocious, to say the least. Didn't have any shots, not even on target or nothing. And the goalkeeper didn't even have to take a goal kick for Spain, which just shows how dominant they were.
I think the thing for Spain, though, is it's similar with England. We can't get too carried away. Costa Rica yesterday was just as bad as Iran were against England, if not even worse. I don't know what you think. I don't know if you think Spain might be favourites. Have we seen the full strength of Spain yet, or do you think they're only going to get better?
I think they're only really going to get better, to be honest. I think the game yesterday, the 7-0, it was just a little bit maybe not them putting their full show on for us, if that makes sense. Like if they were playing against the likes of like Germany or France or even England, really, they would obviously step it up a completely other gear, and they would probably have, you know, the formation might be different, the style of play might be a little bit different. I think it got to a point in yesterday's game where they were just like, right, we've got this now, haven't we? You know, we may as well just keep scoring for fun, which they did really. I couldn't really keep up with the goals that were going in. There was that many, to be honest.
I think Costa Rica got it all wrong. I think obviously Spain were brilliant, but when you sort of abdicate all defensive responsibility, they were just probably one of the worst World Cup performances I've ever seen, and they've really got to improve if they want to take anything out of the group.
It'd be interesting to read the Costa Rican papers this morning, because it must just be like absolutely embarrassing to lose 7-0 at a World Cup.
A Ferran Torres goal just summed up their defending. I think like about 3 or 4 defenders could have tackled him. The goalkeeper don't know what he was doing either. Just summed up their whole day really.
And you mentioned the midfield of Gavi and Pedri. Well, Gavi's now the 3rd youngest player to score in the World Cup match, behind Pele and Manuel Rosas. So pretty impressive midfield from Spain.
Yeah, well, definitely, yeah. Like you said, he's behind, they're probably one of the greatest players of all time, if not the greatest player, Pele there. So it's a fantastic sort of place to be in, isn't it, for the young player? And he was excellent yesterday as well. But another game actually that sort of went under the radar was Canada and Belgium yesterday. I thought Canada played very, very well, very unlucky. Obviously, Alphonso Davies missing that penalty early on. I thought Canada played, like I said, very well, and Belgium sort of scraped through. We had obviously an interesting start there as Atiba Hutchinson. Canada became the 2nd oldest outfield player ever at a World Cup at the age of just 39 and 288 days. So the other end of the spectrum from Gavi there. What do we make of that Belgian performance? Was it worrying, do you reckon, or did Canada play well? What do we make of that?
Well, I think I was a bit disappointed by Belgium, especially the attacking quality they have at their outlet. But when you look at their defence, that is their weakness when you going into the World Cup. They got very aging. Vertonghen and Alderweireld, they're not at their peak of their powers anymore. They're both back in Belgium playing their football. They're not in the top 5 league. So if you look at any other teams, the France, the Spains, the Englands, they're looking at Belgium thinking they're not going to be any threat to Australia. Even if they do get through that group, because they're not guaranteed to get through that group with Morocco and Croatia still in that group.
I think Canada were really good actually in the first half. It was just a shame that they didn't have the finishing quality there. They didn't get those goals that they probably deserve. But then in the second half, I don't think they were the same quality. They weren't the same team. And it kind of showed really, but Belgium were disappointing. I think a lot of people expected a lot more from them.
Yeah, certainly. Just interesting to get your point on that, Elsa, as well. Were Belgium really, really poor, or was it a good performance from Canada? And in a way, can we see Belgium actually going this far in the tournament after that yesterday?
I think I think there's quite a lot of expectations on Belgium, literally just because of the calibre that they've got. And I think it's quite easy just to expect that like some of these teams are just going to cruise through past the likes of Canada, who maybe arguably aren't the biggest footballing nation in the world. But I wouldn't worry too much yet. It's Belgium, I think they're definitely up there with like the likes of France, Germany, and everybody else. Yeah.
So thanks all of you there for your opinions. Now it was we had a good debate then about some of the games from yesterday. So we'll move on into the preview now. Taku.
All right, so we're recording this at time in the UK.
Yeah.
Oh, we're recording this at 10:48, which is just after lunch over in Qatar. And it's always with the World Cup, there isn't any break, so we're just a few hours from the next games kicking off, and we thought it was only right to look at some of those games.
So joining us now, we've already introduced him once, but we're going to come over to Ollie here, who's having a look through all the games today.
Yeah.
Ollie, we've obviously got one already going on, Switzerland and Cameroon. What do you make of all these games going on today, and which one excites you the most?
To be honest, it's probably the most excited I've been for any of the days, really. I know we're in university, so we might not get to watch it all. Hopefully we will, Jerry. But yeah, I'm excited for all the games. You've got Brazil, Uruguay, Portugal. It's 3 titans really of the World Cup. I think Brazil, Serbia for me is probably the pick of the bunch. 2 sort of contrasting styles. Brazil like to get it down, as we know, the quick sort of wingers, quick attackers, and then Serbia will probably get it on the wings and try and get corners, get free kicks, and try and get it on the heads of Mitrovic, Vlahovic. Mitrovic is going to be fit for the game, so that's a massive thing for them. He's their captain, he's their leader. And then Uruguay, South Korea, obviously two sort of different teams. I think Uruguay, the South Americans they'll provide that grit. They've got Suarez, Cavani, Darwin Núñez, someone I'm really, really interested in. I don't know if anyone else has sort of seen what he's been doing for Liverpool this season, but I really like the look of him. He's in form, and I think they've got a really good midfield as well, Uruguay. I think they can go far if they show sort of what they can do against South Korea today. And yeah, just really looking forward to all the games. I think it's going to be a really good time.
I think going back to Serbia, someone's gonna have to check on Nathan Salmon tonight if they go 1-0 up. After he was singing their praises that last week again in the Dark Horses pod that we did, he really fancies them to go on and win the tournament, which was based off FIFA as well, which I thought was also quite funny. So yeah, but Serbia, they're definitely not one to be underestimated. I think that's probably my game of the day, Brazil versus Serbia. And I think it's the 7 o'clock kickoff, isn't it? Our time.
Yeah.
So
everyone
we'll definitely be able to watch that. So yeah, looking forward to that one.
It's just an interesting point there, Ollie. Sort of just looking through the notes there and stuff. You mentioned obviously South Korea relying on the fitness of Son and stuff like that. We spoke yesterday in the podcast about Poland and Lewandowski. Are South Korea a team that that's who they just rely on? They need Son, or else it's just going to be they don't have that threat or anything really.
I think it's tough really when you've got a player like Son, and I think a lot of the other South Korean players maybe aren't as well known. Son's, he's a worldwide name, and he's there. Like in their country, he's adored. It's not even like Harry Kane in this country where you'll get people that don't like him or something like that. He is nationwide. It's like he is the man. So I think when they don't have him, obviously it'd be really tough because he's such a good player. Everyone knows. We've seen him play for Tottenham for a number of years now. But I think without him, they'd really struggle. But they have got him. I think he's back from injury and he's been training. So they should put up a good fight, hopefully. They didn't really do too well in the last tournament. It was all a bit too late when they beat Germany in the final group game. So I'm hoping that'll be a good game as well.
Yeah.
I actually think these two groups are probably the hardest to predict out of all of them, because you got Serbia, Brazil, and Switzerland, Cameroon. Any four of them will back their chances to get through that. Obviously, Serbia has been chosen by many as dark horses, but I think Switzerland are many other people's dark horses. You've seen in the last Euros they beat France. They've got the quality in them. And they've got like Granit Xhaka in midfield in the prime of his career right now for Arsenal. And then you go look at the other group, Uruguay, Ghana and Portugal. Those three, Ghana I think can still upset a few in this tournament. And then Uruguay are everybody's dark horse it seems, and everybody and their nan wants to pick them as theirs.
I think it's going to be interesting to see Portugal as well in action, because obviously we've talked about Ronaldo on pretty much every episode of the podcast since we started. So whether that affects them, it's going to be really interesting to see that. And he's obviously been asking the media not to ask the Portuguese squad about him and things like that, to try and obviously not distract from that. But there's no way they can't be thinking about that going into that game, surely.
Yeah. I'll come to you quickly, Elsa, on that as well, just as we touched on Ronaldo there. What do you make of that full situation, and how much of an impact will it have on sort of the Portugal team, do you reckon?
Oh, it's such a mess, isn't it? Like, when that interview dropped, it was, I don't think anyone has ever seen a footballer do anything like that before. It was so explosive, and it was just, it was absolutely mental. We couldn't believe it when it dropped, and just how, I can't imagine how the United players must have felt. I think they played at Bournemouth the day it came out. I think it was Bournemouth anyway. Apparently they were in the airport when it dropped, so I can just imagine all the faces when they saw it on the phones and it all coming through. Yeah, I can't imagine how that must have felt for them. And I think yesterday or the day before, Bruno Fernandes did Portugal's press conference instead of Ronaldo, and Ronaldo would usually do it. And I think it was either the manager or Bruno Fernandes said, please stop asking me about it, which that's either they don't want to comment on it, or they're sick of talking about it, or they are trying to not let it affect the camp really. But I can't imagine how they wouldn't let it affect it really. It's always going to be in the back of the squad's minds really, and I can imagine it's maybe caused, or maybe can cause, a little bit of there's a big elephant in the room sort of thing on the pitch, definitely.
Yeah. Touched on Bruno Fernandes there. Ollie, you've got something here about Bruno Fernandes. You reckon he plays better without Ronaldo? Just give us your take on that.
I think when you look at the stats, when Ronaldo obviously he's left Man United now, when he was playing for United, Fernandes' last assist for Ronaldo came in October 2021, so that's a whole year. 520 minutes together in the league this season. Fernandes scored no goals, got no assists, and then in 650 minutes without Ronaldo, he got 2 goals and 1 assist. So I think it's quite clear to see that for Man United and for Portugal that Fernandes is a better player without Ronaldo, and I think it's obviously Ronaldo's going to play for Portugal. It's a no-brainer, but I think without him, and maybe if you play João Felix or Andre Silva, I think they could actually possibly go further with them 2 players in the team other than not Ronaldo.
That's probably the problem for Portugal, though. They're never going to drop Ronaldo no matter what happens. But is it more detriment to the team? Because that's what's happened at United. Once he's left, Erik ten Hag's found his team, more unity in the team. You have to think now, is it past the time for Ronaldo to be the main man for Portugal?
I think the trouble is, I think the managers probably think that. Obviously Ten Hag was a big thing with that. I think he sort of admitted that Ronaldo was affecting the team, but Ronaldo himself, we know he's very stubborn. We know that obviously he's been brilliant in years gone by. He himself still thinks that he's at the top of the game, and I think, unfortunately for him, that's just not true anymore.
It's all about the Portuguese players' mindsets. It's whether or not they look over in the dressing room and think, "Oh, not sure about him," or whether they'll think, "Let's just try and forget about that," and he's our leader. I also think Diogo Jota is going to be a big miss for Portugal as well. He'll probably be their main man up top with Ronaldo as well. So I think they're going to miss him in this tournament as well.
Yeah.
Be interesting to see if they want to go down, for example, in a game. How does the team react? Is Ronaldo the one to pump them up again, or will their heads drop and those? If they start with a loss, this could go very bad this tournament for Portugal, I feel.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to watch, definitely, just to see how they sort of react and play with him. Really, if he is involved, which he probably more than likely will be. It'll be interesting to see how that goes on and see how it plays out and stuff. And like you said, if they do go down, is he that man? Is he going to step forward and show everyone what he's really about, or is he just going to be the man who's still held back in this interview, really, more than anything, who's sort of held back by that and what he's done there and looked at in that way instead? But just quickly before we sort of wrap it up and stuff, I'm going to go around the room. I want every one of you to sort of give me a team you're really looking excited and looking forward to being playing today, and just what you think of their chances more than anything. So we'll start with you, Sam. Who excites you today that's playing?
It's Brazil for me. I do think Brazil are going to go on to win it this year. I think they've got the best squad out of all the teams in the World Cup, to be honest. They're so well rounded. They've got, good older players, good younger players all over the pitch. I don't see how many teams beat them at all, really. So I'm excited to see how they play today.
Bit of a boring answer, but mine's Brazil as well. You can't beat that samba. And as an Arsenal fan, I love to see that Martinelli was picked for the World Cup. He was so emotional about it. He really wanted to go. So I hope he has a great tournament. Fingers crossed he doesn't get injured either.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Compared to yesterday, selection's a bit better, of course. But we won't mention that too much. Ollie?
I'm going to go with Uruguay. Really looking forward to watching them play. Mentioned Nunes before. Obviously, we all know what Suarez is about. I think them two linking up could be really good. Fede Valverde, brilliant player. So looking forward to them playing.
Yeah, well, I would have gone with Brazil, but I'll mix it up a bit and go with Portugal. I think, we've all just spoken about the Ronaldo situation there. I think to see how that plays out is going to be really, really interesting. So Portugal might not be one to watch out for in terms of winning the tournament, but with that whole kind of Ronaldo situation, that's going to be really interesting to keep an eye on.
I'm going to have to say Portugal as well, just because there's just been so much interest around the team over the past few days. Ronaldo hasn't been short of a headline, has he? And they're a good team anyway. They've got the quality and they've got the talent on their side, basically. And I think they're going to have a really good game this afternoon.
Yeah, Zaku, come on. Give us your big one. This is up to you. It's all on you. This.
I have to say Brazil, isn't it, as well? Because it's Neymar, isn't it? I feel like Neymar's got a lot to prove this World Cup. Not to prove because he gets a lot of criticism for not winning a Ballon d'Or, not winning Champions League without Messi, or a World Cup puts him up there where people think his ability is.
Yeah.
So,
I agree with you. I think that'll be the most interesting game for me. I'm with Matt and Elsa on the Portugal one. I think that Ronaldo situation is really interesting. It just adds a bit more to that game. And it's Portugal and Ghana, would it be? Portugal will probably expect to win it anyways. But with that sort of there's another interesting angle into it. It just makes it that a little bit more exciting to see how they see what happens with that there. So, but that's all we've got time for today. So thanks to our guest Elsa for coming back in. Elsa, have you enjoyed it? Most importantly.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah.
It's great, and hopefully on the way back, fingers crossed, transport's fine, a bit better than it was coming in this morning.
And thanks also to Matt, Stuart, Ollie and Sam. This podcast was produced and presented by sports journalist students at the University of Central Lancashire, Preston. If you like...
That's my attack, it's fine. So if you liked it, you can follow us on Spotify and share it with your friends. Thanks for listening. We'll be back tomorrow at the same time reviewing the games. There's that big one, isn't there? England might be playing tomorrow against America, potentially. And more importantly, previewing all the games for over the weekend. We'll see you then.